Hi there and welcome to Transcorner Trailer Sales. Today we'll be walking you through your 2025 Wildwood 167Rbkx. We are just going to start off the back of the unit. If you notice up top, you're pre-mounted for an observation camera as well as a liquid collapsible stair system. If you'd like to get set up with either of those, they're both going to be great additions for your camper, and our parts department will be more than happy to help you out putting together a quote. Also located at the back is going to be your spare tire, and then right at the back you do have what's called a black tank flush. So the way that works is, let's say you're noticing false monitor panel readings or an odor around the unit. It's also just good to flush that tank after every couple of uses, just for sanitary reasons. But it's very important that you do read the caution sticker first. You do have to have the sewer hose connected and your black tank valve open. The reason being is if you're pushing pressure inside of that tank and that pressure has got nowhere to go, it could expand that tank to the point of cracking. So that's where you're going to do that. If you come around each side of the bumper tube, today we're going to be coming to the driver's side, pulling the bumper tube. It's going to be typically where you want to store your sewer hose after your first use. We do have a brand new one located inside the front compartment, which is why there's nothing in there yet. But after your first use, that's where you want to store it. In each corner, you do have stabilizer jacks. Now, extra note, they are stabilizing jacks. They're not leveling jacks. Please don't try and use them to level, otherwise you do run the risk of bending them. You got your 3/4 inch drive nut right here at the end. You can run this foot down to the ground. Once the foot contacts the ground, just giving it an 1/8 quarter turn, snug it up. It's going to take any bounce or sway you see having the unit right now away. And if you're using an impact running up or down, especially with today's impacts being cordless and handy, just keep in mind how much torque you put on them, because again, they're pretty easy to bend. Coming up a little further ahead, you got your 2 low point drains. So if you are winterizing the unit, which we had just finished, which is why there's some pink antifreeze everywhere, it's a good idea to crack those open once you're done your winterization process. And of course, if you're just not wanting the water to go stale or stagnant, crack them open. It's going to drain most of the water out of the lines. Sewer exit, twist that off. Your sewer hose is going to have the same ears and lock into place. You got your gray valve and your black valve. You always want to empty your black valve first. It's going to be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets, and then you can come behind that with this gray one. Typically cleaner water filled from your sinks and your showers. Right here, you got your hot water service port. Only a couple things you really need to worry about. This switch applies power to the thermostat inside, so during winterizing process, making sure that's off so it's not trying to fire while you're running antifreeze through it. And this is going to be different from your standard water heater. If you've done the winterizing on a previous trailer before, you probably had a tanked water heater, in which case there's bypass valves behind it which you had to turn. This is the complete opposite. There's no bypass valves you have to turn. You do run antifreeze through the system. Just once you're done running the system completely, crack this pressure relief valve, leave it cracked open for the duration of winter. So that way, once that antifreeze does start gelling up during those extremely cold winter months, especially here in Manitoba, it has a place to go and it can escape instead of expanding and cracking inside those copper coils. To my left, again, you got your standard 30 amp twist lock connection. You're just taking note of that notch there. It lines up with this notch on this side. Firmly press that into place, 8th turn to lock it in, and then you got that threaded collar to really lock it down. If you follow that cord back, you do have your standard 30 amp plug end. Now a lot of campsites should have this, you plug right on in. But if you wanted to run this unit at home, or your campsite only had a 15 amp service, which is your standard household outlet, we do include that park adapter. Just keep in mind whenever you are using it, it's not going to be able to run your air conditioner. It really is just to run your fridge and your lights. Get your exterior shower here. Standard 751 key to open up that guy. Your city water connection now, so if you're out boondocking or your campsite just doesn't have water, you could fill this guy up, and that's what fills up your fresh tank. Straight down below that, you got your city water connection. So if you're out of site with service, you can thread a garden hose in there, turn it on. It's going to pressurize all those lines without needing to run your water pump. Furnace exhaust, whenever your furnace is running, that'll be blowing out hot air, so just be mindful of that. Right down below the floor here, you're going to have a second white cap. That's going to be the drain for your fresh tank, so that's going to be how you drain all that out. Inside this side compartment here, this is typically where we keep that power cord. It's also where you're going to find your standard starter kit. Inside this kit comes with a 10-foot sewer hose, 15-foot water hose, as well as some other miscellaneous goodies, including that 15 amp park adapter. Coming around to the very front of the unit, right up front, propane tank, pretty standard, counterclockwise, opens up the flow of propane. You do want to go nice and slowly like so, opens up the flow into the unit. Battery box inside that. Battery box houses the battery, and then right on the front A-frame, you got your battery disconnect switch, so if you want to disconnect the unit from the system from the unit, the battery from the unit, you turn that to the off position. If you want it to be connected, you turn it to the on position like it is now. Power tongue jack right up front. Other side, you get another the other side of your storage compartment goes right through. And then right here in this back corner, you do have a little 110 mini fridge. Now this only works whenever you're plugged into shore power. It's not 12 volts, so just keep that in mind. Now for the best part, to get inside, you just take that assist handle, push it up, folding it 90 degrees. It's gonna lock it into place. That'll allow you to open up your door. You do have to have this door open all the way to get your stairs down. Your stairs have adjusted feet, so you can have nice and level stairs for your campsite. Just pushing on the tabs will slide those into the different tracks. Pull the blue tab, pull these stairs towards you. You want these stairs down. You want this black plate as close to the catch plate as possible, so that way your door can come in and out nice and freely without binding. Now this door, when it is fully open, you're going to notice it runs into contact with that awning arm. So if you were to try to open that awning with this door open, of course, you're going to probably cause damage. So just try and remember, always keep the door closed 90 degrees whenever you're running your awning in or out. Now, once we take a step on inside, first thing you notice off on the left is that fire extinguisher, which is pretty much just like home. Pull the pin and shoot. Up on the wall, you got a couple different light switches. The center one's going to do the awning light. This right one is going to turn on most of the main living space lights. Up top, you got your monitor panel system. Hitting the button tells you the corresponding level. Water pump switch turns on your water pump. That's what draws out your fresh tank. And then we do have your awning control. Push the button down, the awning starts making its way up. Once the awning's at its full extension, which unfortunately we won't be able to get to today just due to space, you will be able to see the back of another tube and the little flap hang down. Sometimes the flap can get stuck, so you might just have to retract it a couple feet and put it back out again to get it to flop down. So that's all we're going to be able to coat today, but now if it were to start raining, you can take any arm, front or rear, push in on these two tabs, and then you can run it into the other desired spots. Now that's going to change the pitch of the awning head, allowing water channel runoff. Now it's also going to allow for more shader needs, so you can do the same thing with the front arm if you desire. Just try and remember to put them both back to the same hole all the way at the natural resting position before you bring your awning in. That way you don't run the risk of bending anything. Another thing to keep in mind whenever you have your awning out, always keep an eye on the wind speeds. Once the wind speeds do start picking up, you're going to want to make sure you bring the awning in. It doesn't take much to rip your bend your arms or rip your fabric. And to bring the awning in, as simple as pushing and holding the button, the awning starts rolling its way in. And once the arms contact the side of the trailer, the motor's automatically cut out. So start off in the kind of bedroom space here. Up on the wall, you got your solar controller, there's going to be a bunch of different settings you can go and play with. I'm going to recommend going over the owner's manual, of course, before you try and play with any of them, because it gets pretty in-depth. But we do have it currently set up for your basic charging needs. If there's sun outside hitting the solar panel, it's going to be applying a charge to your front battery. This light switch here turns on some really cool accent lights at the front of the trailer to really spice up your campsite a little bit. Whenever you're using any of the storage inside this unit, and there is a lot of it, just be mindful of drains, water lines, and things like that. Now, to get the bed down, you do just have to move this side bolster out of the way, pick up on the foot of the couch folds down. Sometimes you gotta assist it a little bit and move your stuff out of the way. That'll allow that to fold down. Take this, push it in, and you have a nice little bed space. You do have sleep app access on both sides there with plugins. And then of course you got a big blind in the front. All the blinds in the unit, they work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them. And then to get that back up, you're just folding it up like so, grabbing the foot of the couch. Kind of have to grab the top while you push it back into place. Locks itself up, and you're all good to go. So this is going to be the fire exit right here for the unit. Take this red tab, pull on it, the screen's going to pop right out of place. At that point, you can just take this handle, plop it up, push it out, hop on out of the unit. Of course, trying to go feet first because that is the safest way, but if there's a fire, just try and get out as quickly as possible. Up above my head, little TV bracket in case you wanted to mount the TV. Just keep it in mind there's not much space here, so it's going to have to be a pretty small TV. You also got GFI plug-in up here, and then you have your main cable satellite outlet. Push that button in, turns that green light on. Now that's going to improve radio frequency and cell phone frequency because it turns the antenna on the roof. I recommend leaving it on during camping, but of course we're trying to remember to turn it off whenever you're not using it. That way you're not drawing excess battery power. One thing I forgot to go over, your sound system for the unit is just right here. It's this portable JBL speaker on its own little mount. It's Bluetooth. You have to use your phone with it to work. There's no FM option, unfortunately. Clips into place. Simple as that. Because this unit's equipped with propane, you got your LP detector right here near the ground. If that guy does ever start going off, don't panic. Just turn off the main supply of propane at the front of the unit. Open up some windows and vents to get some fresh oxygen inside of here. Because I brought up propane, I will go over some notes about it. Once the system's turned off at the front, and if you disconnect one of the bottle at the front especially, it does allow air into the system. Once air makes its way in, it does have to be purged out. Quickest, easiest way to do that is by just, as soon as you get your campsite, fire up your stove first thing. And the reason I'm telling you to use your stove is that you get to decide how long the gas valve runs for and how many sequences it goes for. If you go to try to fire up your water heater or your furnace, those will only try lighting themselves a couple times before they throw a fault code at you. If you don't know what the fault code means, it could throw a little wrench in your weekend, so we want to avoid that. But of course, whenever you're using your gas stove, you do want to be safe while doing so. So if you push that in and turn that over and you hear the gas running but no clicking, don't leave it running on, because if there was to be a buildup of gases and then a random spark of some sort, an ignition source, there could be a minor combustion, and if your face was nearby, you could lose some eyebrows and eyelashes. So just be safe whenever you're using it. Push that knob in, turn it over to the high/light option. And of course today it did fire up pretty quickly just because I had the system running earlier. Sometimes it can take a few minutes. Just of course, if you're leaving it on, it's going to be making noise, but just as long as the sparker's sparking, once the gas makes its way through, it will light. But just make sure that that sparker is sparking. Above your head, you got your microwave, which is just like home. Not much I'm going to show you there. Some more plugins all around the unit. You got your furnace control. This is going to be how you fire your furnace. Your furnace only has one fan speed. It moves all its air through the floor portals you have throughout here. Turning it all the way to the right is its hottest setting. Anywhere before that's a warmer setting, and clicking it to the left is turning it off. You got a temperature dial here. Right next to us, you got your Suburban water heater thermostat. I forgot to turn the switch on, but it's pretty simple. Push the power button on, it turns itself on. Up or down to change your set temperature. You can change it between Celsius and Fahrenheit with the press of a button. It's locked to 50 degrees Celsius off the bat just for a safety feature so kids can't scald their hands. If you push and hold the up button for 5 seconds, you'll hear it beep, and it'll allow you to go up to 55. Just keep it in mind, 55 is very hot. You're going to scald your hands if you leave them under there for a few seconds. Now, because this is a tankless system, it doesn't work like your normal system. You're not wanting to blend the cold in at all. You do just, the way you want to set this temperature is where you find it comfortable with just the hot tap on. And the reason being is it runs the most efficiently because it is based off flow. Once you start blending in the cold, that's when you start throwing off the flow and you could have cold spots. So again, just leave that, set that exactly where you find it comfortable and leave it there. Right here, in case you were to have some extra guests, you do have a dinette, so you can pull the feet out from underneath the table, set your tabletop on its desired ledges, take the back cushions to fill in the center, you have yourself another bed. Now, here you're going to notice the bathroom door, it's a slider. It's very important that you do latch it before you leave for travel. The reason being is if it's unlatched and you're traveling around, it's going to allow this to swing freely back and forth, causing damage. That's going to be something you do want to avoid. So just making sure that you latch it in place before you leave, that way you don't damage anything. Furion fridge right behind me. Open this up. Right down below is the controls for both. When it's in the off section, it's obviously off. All the way to the right, that's going to be its coldest setting, and that's also going to be how the fridge gets the coldest the fastest. So if you're planning a trip, you forgot to turn the fridge on the night before, if you leave it on that last setting there, it is going to get the fridge the coldest the fastest. And then you do notice this off-grid rating here. That's just letting you know the most energy efficient setting to have it on. If you're running it off battery power, all the way off to turn it off. Charcoal filter in the top left-hand corner. That's just to help with fridge odors. We do sell replacement ones here at the shop. Again, just by getting into contact with the parts department, they can get you a couple more if you were to need them. Right below, you got your main fuse and breaker panel. Whenever a breaker trips, it'll sit in the middle, so you do just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. And then this is the GFI, the main GFI reset. So if you ever have a plug that doesn't work, just make sure that this breaker isn't tripped. It can trip sometimes for the weirdest reasons. All the fuses are on the right. Above you, you get your air conditioner. You got your louver controls, so you can decide which direction the air blows. And then here, you're gonna notice this temperature knob. It has a red setting here. Now that were to be if there was a heat pump installed. These guys don't come with heat pumps installed. It's only the cool, so leaving it on the cool setting is gonna be the most advised option. And whenever you're turning it on, the first two settings, low fan, that's just moving the air around using the air conditioner with no heating or cooling involved. Then you get to a high fan, same thing but on a high fan. And then once you get to the blue fan, that's when the air conditioning takes into effect. It's going to start cooling the air as it's blowing it out. The second last option there is going to be the high fan on the cool. All the way back over to off to turn it off. Taking a step on into the bathroom, light switch right in front of you, that turns that on. Lights it up inside here. It's pretty much your standard bathroom other than that. But off to my right, you do get your vent lid. Pull up down on it, move it up. That allows that vent lid to open up. Now, if you do notice, you open straight up into the atmosphere. So if it were to start raining, it's going to get pretty wet inside of here. Unless of course you went with a max air cover. It's a cover that goes over top of here. It's going to protect you from rain, hail, all those sorts of things. And especially if you were to forget this open while traveling, it could damage your lid if you didn't have the cover on there. We do sell covers here at the shop. You can contact the parts department. They'd be more than happy to put together a quote for you. Again, it's going to be another great addition for your camper. Now, that is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.